Good evening, guys. It is Wednesday, March 26, 2025. This Bathrobe business. I got my decaf coffee and I've got the news. So let's talk business. I was off yesterday, kind of like I told you guys on Monday, but there's a couple major stories I want to talk about. Really, I'm actually going to be focusing on one thing in today's kind of podcast. It's going to be mostly about cars, it's mostly going to be about the auto industry. Before that, I want to jump into two pieces of information. The first is going to be gold, my favorite subject. Um, I'm becoming more and more bullish on gold by the day. And if you've watched this channel for the last couple of years, you know I was already pretty bullish on it. So I'm double bullish. I'm bullish to the balls with gold. Yeah, that's an expression. So gold is doing fantastically. It's outperforming literally every other index. It's up to 3036. It's actually dropped a little bit a couple days ago. It was at 3068, new all-time high. I think gold is perfectly cementing itself as a replacement of crypto. Even though crypto was supposed to be the replacement to gold, I think that fad is coming to an end. Every time the market drops, crypto starts to drop. I don't see this recovering. I know there's a lot of crypto stands out there. Really, the only legitimate crypto I think is either Bitcoin or Ethereum. I think Ethereum is more interesting because of the blockchain, not necessarily because of a currency. But Bitcoin itself, the reason to own it is becoming less and less relevant on a daily basis. Even strong proponents of cryptocurrencies like Peter Thiel has come out and said he just doesn't feel confident about the product anymore and he's divesting. And granted, Peter Thiel's a problematic character. I think he's brilliant. I don't think that can be argued, but I think he is problematic because I think his allegiances do tend to wax and wane. But when the guy that's been backing it for 10 years says he's not backing it anymore, you kind of have to admit that maybe the party is over. And as far as the rest of the shit coins, I really don't even care. You can't even name them. So I think I'm strongly encouraging gold. I'm going to be purchasing it myself in my private life. You can do what you will, but gold is constantly outperforming everything else, especially with the uncertainty in the markets that we're seeing. There was actually an interesting article in researching today's video. It mentioned, will gold hit 3,500 by 2027? The answer is yes. I think gold's going to be up at 5,000 before the end of the decade. I mean, currently they've been undershooting the trajectory of gold. Gold has surpassed the metrics that they were hitting. They said gold would hit 3,000 by the end of the year. I told you it was going to happen in the first quarter, and it did. It happened before the end of the first quarter, and it's still continuing to climb. And to further underpin that, consumer confidence is now at a 12-year low. That's coming from this article right here on CNBC. I want to make sure you guys can see that. I mean, the main underpinning is the poll that conducts how confident people are in the economy is progressing incredibly low. And that's going to be one of the other drivers that raises the cost of gold. Gold is a safe haven. It always has been. Remember this, when global recessions happen, they don't just happen in the United States, they happen globally. And there's lots of countries that use gold as a safe haven. Russia is quote unquote gold backed, but China invests heavily into gold. Korea can't keep gold on the shelves if that was a thing, but they're constantly having to mint new bars because people are flocking to it. So gold is definitely going to go up. I can't stress that enough. Buy gold, buy gold, buy gold. It's one of the best hedges against inflation and economic instability. So let's jump into the meat and potatoes of today's episode. So Trump's newest tariff announcement. So Trump announces 25% tariff on all cars not made in the United States. One second. Dry mouth. Okay, so 25% tariffs. So these tariffs are going to be in addition to any existing tariffs that he has already passed. They go into effect at the same time as a lot of the other tariffs, but this is going to be compounded for some of these countries like China, Mexico, probably Canada. I don't know much of manufacturing that happens in Canada in regards to cars. I know there's a lot of auto parts, but I don't think full assembly. But there are cars that are heavily manufactured in Mexico for the United States, not just with domestic manufacturers, but international manufacturers like Nissan that we've talked about on this channel. So the details of this are still kind of fuzzy, as all things are with Donald Trump. These tariffs could be repealed tomorrow or reduced to 15% or then spiked up to 30%. It's incredibly unpredictable, but I'm just going to take it at face value for right now. Now, if this does happen, if these go into effect the way they are now, currently it's not applying to parts, it's just to assembly. I think this would be a major shift in a way that people would not predict. So my hot take is this 25% tariff is going to hurt domestic manufacturing and it's going to hurt European manufacturing, but not to the extent that it hurts American manufacturing. So that may seem counterintuitive, but here's why. Uh, there is already a tariff on parts that are coming into the United States. A lot of American cars are manufactured in Mexico and or abroad. When those cars come into the United States, if there's a compounding tariff with parts and assembly, it's going to cut profit margins for a lot of U.S. manufacturers. It's also going to give powerful negotiating power to the unions themselves because now they can push the manufacturers much harder on their demands. Now, this is also going to hurt Europe, specifically companies like Volkswagen that produce cars for the everyday driver, right? Volkswagen literally means the people's car. It's going to hurt cars like those because they're made to be low-cost alternatives for the everyday driver. If someone is choosing to go with a Volkswagen versus a Ford Focus, they're probably going to go with the Focus because they're going to be paying lower fees at sticker price. Not to mention, I'm sure there's some sort of manufacturer incentives going on that we can do here that they can't do abroad, etc. So it's going to hurt those companies. Now, it's not going to hurt your luxury vehicle market because if you're in the market for an expensive BMW, an Audi, a Mercedes, those cars are already flexes. And when you buy those cars, you're choosing amongst those cars. So those cars are all German. So it's going to be a boost to U.S. tax revenue, but it's not going to actually affect the it's not going to affect the sales of those companies in a drastic way. Where it really is going to affect the sales is for the basic consumer cars. And because the United States has a lot of consumer cars that are made outside of the United States or made in tandem with the United States, made in tandem with countries outside the United States, it's going to hurt domestic manufacturing. It's also going to hurt smaller Japanese car companies like your Hondas and your Nissans, because Nissan is just doing abysmal. We've talked about that, and I've got another story I'm going to mention at the end of this video about Nissan. But I think Toyota's going to be fine. I think Toyota has adapted to complicated markets before. They've showed efficiency. I think people buy Toyotas for more than just price point. They buy it for reliability. They buy it for a certain standard. And so that's why I think Toyota is fine. When you're picking between a Toyota or a Ford Focus, most people are going to still go with the Toyota. Even if it's slightly more expensive, you get more bang for your buck with Toyota than you do with an American-made Ford. Now, the last thing I think that could happen with this, and in fact, I of all my hot takes, I think this is an absolute certainty. It's going to bring Chinese manufacturing of cars to the United States. So I think one way or another, BYD, I think, is the all-star leader in China. They're going to end up manufacturing here in the United States. To underpin that point, just in annual revenue, BYD has outpaced Tesla by $107 billion worldwide. So Tesla is obviously doing abysmally. They're falling year after year. And now globally, BYD, this little upstart, is outpacing them and outperforming drastically. This is without United States sales. And we all know that the United States sales are the crown jewel of automotive industry. Oh, I didn't share the article. The United States buys more cars. We're a car-obsessed culture. We need more cars, population, roads. Everything in the United States is built around cars. That's why it's one of our top industrial exports. So if they gain access to the United States, it's kind of game over because at that point, they'll outpace everybody. Now, why this may seem counterintuitive is because while Trump does have this kind of nationalist populist streak, at the end of the day, it's just about business for him. He doesn't care if the cars are foreign but manufactured here, as long as the jobs and the money stay here domestically. He demonstrated that a couple of days ago with the announcement of the Hyundai manufacturing plant that's going to be opening up in Louisiana. It's currently proposed to be under construction. If or when BYD comes, Trump is going to welcome them with open arms because he doesn't really care. He wants domestic manufacturing, and I think that's exactly what he's going to get. No one can manufacture as well as China. No one has the supply chain as well as China, and China wants the U.S. market. So they'll do anything and everything to get into here, and it's going to happen. Now, the one caveat is Elon Musk being part of the Trump administration. I don't know how that's going to formulate. I don't know if it's going to be a formal alliance between Tesla and BYD, where BYD comes in and manufactures out of Tesla facilities, or there's some other backroom dealings. I think it's unavoidable that Tesla's going to be part of the conversation. There's no way Elon's going to let that happen. It could also mean that Elon gets thrown out of the administration, potentially. I don't think it's happened yet, so I don't think it's going to happen at all. I think with the personalities at play there, if it was going to happen, it would have happened in the first 100 days. I know we're not quite at 100 days yet, but let's be honest, it would have happened within the first week. It happened with Vivek, right? He was part of the administration, but went head to head with the administration and lost. So the fact that Elon Musk is still there makes me think that this alliance is going to last and that he's going to take part in the BYD measure of coming into the United States, possibly taking part in their manufacturing, possibly supplying them with lithium batteries, possibly supplying them with motors. It's going to be some sort of partnership that's going to bolster both. And I think they're definitely coming to the United States. And that's why I believe it's also going to hurt domestic manufacturing. I'm also going to throw out a couple of states, I think, where this could happen. It could definitely happen in Texas, especially if Musk is part of the deal. I could also see this happening in the Carolinas because North and South Carolina have powerful manufacturing sectors, and they have lots and lots of ports that are great for domestic transport. You can transport stuff up and down the East Coast and, of course, abroad into places like Europe. But then also potentially a state like Arizona, where it's so close to the border of Mexico, they can manufacture here, transport into Mexico. Mexico probably won't tax them as heavily as if it was vice versa. And they would have a good central point for distribution into South America. So those are the states I think if it happens, that's where it's going to happen. Unless it's a partnership with Musk, it's definitely happening in Texas. Last story, kind of on this same tangential path. Nissan. Let's talk about this one. So Nissan does have a new CEO. It happened while I was gone for those 2 weeks. Nissan has a new CEO, and I think he's going to fail even worse than the last guy. Now, there is one possibility that he's throwing things out there to court Honda to come back into negotiations. I think that's very much possible. I think Honda is very open to that as well. So if that is what he's streaming for, then he may be successful. But his current restructuring plan, I think, is just abysmal. It seems like one of his primary motivations is just to shorten the development time of cars from 55 months to 37 months. The problem is I don't think Nissan has 37 months. That's 3 years. And Nissan is in dire straits right now. I don't think it really matters what happens 3 years from now when currently you've got a major crisis. The problem is unreliability. The problem is the financial crimes they had a couple years ago. The problem is the fact that nobody's buying their cars. And another major problem is that all of the cars that are developed and shipped into the United States are built and assembled in Mexico, which are now being tariffed heavily. So there's multiple problems. I don't think any of those are being addressed. I think the other problem here is that the current CEO, Espinoza, is a two-decade company man. One of the biggest problems here is kind of that groupthink that sets into a corporation. I think the only way to save Nissan would be to bring in an outside CEO, someone that might even not be in the manufacturing sector, or might not even be in the car manufacturing sector, but to get fresh blood in there, because I think it's going to be very much more of the same. This guy has been in Nissan for about 2 decades. He's come up with the same guys that had the same ideas that led the company into where they are. They really need fresh blood. So I'll kind of leave today off with a moral of when you are trying to change your company, you need to change the people at the top. And if you're just hiring from within, if you're just bringing people up, even if they're good performers, even if they were good CTOs or good COOs, if they're of the company, they're coming with the same ideas. So in order to really revolutionize this company, you have to get a revolutionary CEO, and you have to get someone from outside of Nissan for sure. You can get someone from Starbucks, and they'd probably do a better job than who Nissan is currently putting into place. So I think this is going to fail. I think Nissan is going to fall on its face. And like I said, I think this is the last decade of Nissan, unless they sell off, they merge, they come up with something crazy. I just don't see it happening. I think in the next 10 years, Nissan is going to go the way of the dinosaur. That's pretty much it. Those are the stories of the day. Hope you guys enjoyed them. It was very car-centric. I'm sure if my brother's watching, he liked that. I'll see you guys back here tomorrow, and I hope you guys have a productive Thursday. Bye.